Mario is highly regarded as one of the most famous video game characters of all time. He's an instantly recognizable character to the point of a 5-year-old try to draw a picture of Mario, you'd look at it and say, hey, that's Mario! With it currently sitting at a 97 on Metacritic, and as of this video selling over 17 million copies, it's pretty safe to say that Odyssey has had a successful run. Critics and fans alike praise Super Mario Odyssey as a true continuation of the 3D Mario series, with the last true mainline title being Super Mario Galaxy in 2010. That's it. Nothing else. But with all of the reviews geared towards the gameplay and design of this game, I wanted to take a step back and look at the music. This game feeds off of nostalgia with 8-bit sections and nods to previous Mario games. So, how does Super Mario Odyssey tend to find that balance to combine nostalgia with a fresh new spin on the franchise? With Mario appearing in over 200 games, 15 of those being mainline Mario titles, how does the biggest gaming franchise on the planet manage to keep their soundtrack fresh without getting stale? Well, to see that, we'll have to go all the way back to the beginning. The first mention of Mario was the arcade game simply titled Mario Bros., released in 1983, but the true origins date back to the original Donkey Kong, released in 1981 to monumental success. Donkey Kong was huge and still is to this day, but back then the music of arcade cabinets was much different to today, as in it didn't really exist. You see, back then, due to hardware limitations, companies often had a hard time squeezing gameplay, music, and sound effects together, so most companies often just used the sound effects. Games typically had 3 lives and oftentimes cheap mechanics to make players die frequently to keep the replay value. So with emphasis on making games shorter to rake in the dough, you basically just gave the arcade cabinet an opening jingle, a sound effect, and there you go, give me your f***ing money. But it wasn't until a few years later when technology was truly able to catch up and we saw the release of Super Mario Bros. On October 18th, 1985. This game was without a doubt a monumental success. As of today, Super Mario Bros. Has sold over 40 million copies. To put this into perspective, the next game to sell more copies than Super Mario Bros. Was Wii Sports in 2006, over 20 years later. This launched Mario not only to video game stardom, but a household name. You couldn't go anywhere, and still to this day, without somebody knowing who Mario is. Mario is one of the most popular video game characters of all time, and to prove it, we're going door to door around our neighborhood to ask random people if they know who the titular character is. Excuse me, sir, do you know who this is?
Get the f*** out of my yard.
Q World 1-1, the opening level of the original Super Mario Bros. With the release of home consoles, video games couldn't be short anymore. They needed to lengthen the experience to keep players engaged. With kids being the primary market for video games, it was crucial to capture their attention through gameplay, visuals, and music. Ever since release, this iconic jingle has been cemented into our brains ever since we heard it. It's such an industry staple that it's even been able to break the confines of Nintendo and appear in other media as well.
So Xalem, why are you still talking about this game when you should be talking about this game? Well, the reason is perfectly simple, and that reason is Koji Kondo.
Koji Kondo is one of the most infamous video game composers of all time. If it's a Nintendo song, there's a good chance that Koji Kondo had his hands in the mix at some point in time. Koji Kondo has worked on nearly every single mainline Mario and Zelda title so far, so it only makes sense for him to reprise his role in the newest game for the Nintendo Switch. On approaching the elaborate soundtrack for Odyssey, Kondo wanted to continue the precedent that Galaxy started. The Galaxy formula took what Super Mario 64 and Sunshine had and made it into a more dynamic soundtrack, with the actions of gameplay driving the music. In an Iwata ask, Masafumi Kawamura, who was a key composer in Super Mario Galaxy, stated that the team wanted to have the Galaxy experience to feel more integrated with the overall world. He cited games like Zelda and Donkey Kong Jungle Beat as an example. For instance, in Wind Waker, a sound effect will ring in sync with the music when you hit an enemy, and in Jungle Beat, the sound is played in sync with the music every time you jump. For this game, we wanted to take that system a step further. We experimented to find a way to make that system work with the streamed music. But Odyssey is reverting back to the old formula of games. It's a throwback to the traditional 3D Mario. So how do we incorporate the idea of an old Mario game into a new release with an orchestrated soundtrack? On top of that, how do we keep it fresh and invigorating for new audiences that aren't used to the soundtrack without making it feel repetitive for the veterans of the series? And the answer might not be as complicated as you think. Since Super Mario Odyssey is going back to the roots of 3D Mario, let's compare Super Mario 64 to Super Mario Odyssey. In the original Super Mario 64, the opening cinematic plays, music in the background keeps you engaged, Lakitu comes down, Mario comes out of the warp pipe, Luigi's dead, you've seen it a million times. But what do you hear? Ambience. There's no music to guide you to where you need to go. It's just trees, the sound of the creatures in the background. You just gain control of Mario in this brand new 3D landscape that's never been seen in a video game before. And here you are in front of Peach's castle. This is the way of the game telling you, take a step back, learn the controls. You've got a pond that you can go in, you've got hills that you can climb, you can do whatever the this is. But the game wants you to understand the brand new camera angle, the brand new aspects to this game. And it eases you into this before you go inside of Princess Peach's castle and start your adventure. Super Mario Odyssey complements this in the same way. You get dropped into a similar wide open area in the Cap Kingdom. There's just ambient background music and Cappy's running away to guide you to where you need to be. Granted, there's no big-ass castle standing right in front of you saying, "Come on in!" But by giving the player this creative freedom, it allows the players to experience their own pace of the game, and music is definitely a major factor in this. The music doesn't actually kick in until you encounter Cappy, and then we hear the whole story. It's simple Mario bullshit, you know, his sister was kidnapped, she's on top of Peach's head, blah blah blah, just get on my head and let's go. But then you're introduced to the jingle of the Cap Kingdom. It's nothing crazy or spectacular, but it sets the mood. There's no obstacles, no threats in the Cap Kingdom. It's a relaxing way for you to continue learning the controls, but now you're engaged, and now you have a mission of where you need to go. And the music is nice! It's got a laid-back, slow pace that doesn't bombard you and make you feel any sort of intensity. It sounds like if The Nightmare Before Christmas didn't make you feel like somebody was trying to sneak into your house at 2 o'clock in the morning. You continue on, fight this rabbit, ribbit ribbit motherfucker, and then you're on to one of the most standout music tracks in the game, the Cascade Kingdom. Cascade Kingdom is your first true platforming challenge in Super Mario Odyssey. I guess you could say this is the game's way of getting your feet wet. But because you're now onto a more linear adventure, you need the music to set the pace. The music is upbeat, it illicitly tells your brain to start moving. Since there's a more traditional path for you to take, the game can guide your direction. Since the Cascade Kingdom is a very linear level, the music takes advantage of this, as our minds naturally want to move in a pace to whatever we hear. The key composers know this, so they use this to their advantage so that they can give us something appealing to listen to while driving us towards the goal. But then the music takes a step back. It chills and recedes to a more laid-back pace. You don't notice this on a first glance in your playthrough, but consistently changing the way you listen to the worlds around Mario changes how you view the game itself. Slowing the music down lessens the intensity and reminds us, if you need to, you can relax. But then you get this TRex, oh my god, it's so intense, I just want to go around and just... Capturing the TRex makes you feel intensity, so the music should do the same, right? Well, yes and no. You want the music to feel bombastic, but you don't want it to drown out the crowning moment of becoming a dinosaur. If you listen to the song, there's no melody. It's just a rhythm mainly consisting of tribal drums. There's nothing for your brain to fix onto. However, with a lack of melody, it brings out the ferocity of the capture. You hear the shrieks and roars of the dinosaur making that your melody. By making the sound effects the focus of the rhythm, you add flavor to the player's experience rather than taking it away. But that brings up another good point. What happens when the melody takes a backseat to gameplay experience? Odyssey thrives off making gameplay the focal point, but can you think of how many tracks stand out in Odyssey in comparison to 64 and Sunshine? Most likely not, and why is that? Super Mario Odyssey has over 800 moons to collect. Super Mario Sunshine and 64 have 120. Let's take a look at the first linear approach in Super Mario Sunshine. In Bianco Hills, you're immediately dropped onto a fixed path with forward being the only way to go. As we discussed earlier, music drives you forward. On your journey to the top of the windmill, there's plenty of times where you have to stop and take in what's going on around you. However, look at when you get to the top of the windmill. Lots of downtime, which means a perfect opportunity to grab the player with this rhythm. This doesn't happen often in Odyssey. The developers designed a game in which you are able to make your own journey, typically skipping entire dev-intended methods. This is why when you're dropped into Toast Arena immediately after the Cascade Kingdom, the music immediately takes a back seat. More open world, less dynamic. Is it memorable? Yup. Is there still a melody? Yup. However, since this gives off more of a ghost town vibe, they try to keep a more simplistic approach. It's similar in comparison to the Cap Kingdom. Here's a new wide open area for you to explore. Since the game puts exploration at its heart, there's not many dynamics and changes going on. It keeps its footing and keeps its music in the background for sound effects to take precedence. So what happens when the melody is the focal point? Well, I guess you all know what's coming next. Jump Up Superstar, one of the biggest tracks of 2017, a phenomenal year for music. This fantastic vocal track came out in a year when there weren't a lot of good vocal tracks to talk about. Jump Up Superstar is the perfect nostalgia trip for Mario, and there are dozens of references and nods to previous Mario games. Pauline takes the role of the lead singer in the jazz orchestra and is voiced by Kate Higgins. Kate Higgins is no stranger to voice acting, with one of her more well-known roles as Sakura Haruno in the Naruto series. Other popular roles include Tails from Sonic the Hedgehog and Lissa from Fire Emblem Awakening. Jump Up Superstar's combination of jazz and swing vocals are inspired by modern Broadway performances. Nintendo explained that they wanted a song that fit the game's dynamic, but was able to be enjoyed by casual fans outside of the game. And boy, did they hit their mark. Nintendo didn't have to go the extra mile, but they did. Giving homage to the original game while putting a nostalgia-driven song at the center? I'm not gonna sit here and tell you I didn't cry the first time I experienced it. But then you get this right here, that bass line. The original bass line that takes you all the way back to 1981 where it all began. It's the same melody as the original Donkey Kong 36 years ago. Mix this with the sounds of coins, flipping the switch, and you've got yourself a Game Awards performance. I've been playing music for almost half of my life, but I don't simply want to give you solely my take. To give a more in-depth approach on the music in Super Mario Odyssey, I've asked for the help of my friend Ro Panuganti. Ro is a friend of the channel's and has recently released a 5-track EP entitled Moon Rock, mixing modern rock music with the video game stylings of Super Mario Odyssey. Upon asking him how the structure of Super Mario Odyssey is built, Ro explained that the game uses dynamics to its advantage. He also elaborated even more on the bombastic theme once the game gets going post-tutorial. The Cascade Kingdom uses scales and note structure as a motif to the main theme of Super Mario Odyssey. The soundtrack is also not afraid to use other media as groundwork as well, with tracks like Steam Gardens being reminiscent of 90s surf rock or Tostarena Ruins using the musical stylings that take inspiration from Eastern melodies and instrumentation. Christian Richardson also explained that the game has a whimsical aspect that lends itself to the adventurous spirit. There is a blend of emotion and spirit that is tied together by nostalgically charged references to other Mario soundtracks. The game is not afraid to traverse a big range of different territory. But it wouldn't do justice to Odyssey if we didn't talk about that finale. Putting the cap on Bowser, taking control of the King Koopa, and holding Peach while the world collapses around you. But goodness, listen how good this is and how climactic it is. Take the original song, turn it into a minor key, add some French horns and some violins, and how does it get any better than this? Anime. Here it is, the climax of Odyssey. Whether you spent 2 or 20 hours to get here, break free. Once again sung by Kate Higgins. If you would have told me in 2002 when I first played Super Mario Sunshine that 15 years later I'd be listening to an anime song being played in Super Mario Odyssey, oh, who am I kidding? I'm here for it. The intensity of a chase sequence followed by a major change in tone to this happy, upbeat song in celebration of your achievements all the way across the grand world of Super Mario Odyssey, how much of a better send-off can you get for this crowning achievement of a video game? The final moment in Super Mario Odyssey struck such a chord with me and so many others. What a fantastic feeling to leave the players with that leaves us itching to know when can we see Mario and Cappy again. Mario once again proves that just because a game is nostalgic doesn't mean that you can't put a new twist on it. To celebrate, I'm actually going to go buy the game for the first time. One copy of Super Mario Odyssey, please.
Sir, this is a Wendy's.
We're going door to door to see how popular the video game character actually is. That didn't work either.